Kayla. I was about to marry the man of my dreams, Liam, after 6 months of anticipation. But he wasn't here. His absence ruined my wedding. Luna Kayla has been left at the altar, I heard people whisper amongst the crowd. And where is the maid of honor? What a mess. I forced my back straight and my chin high, even though I wanted to burst into tears. I am the only daughter of my alpha father, and I had no wolf, which meant that I could not inherit the pack. So I had chosen Liam to marry me and become Blue Moon's alpha. I had to find him. I picked up my skirt and turned toward the door leading to the back of the chapel. The murmurs and camera flashes followed me the entire way, but I didn't look back. Liam. I called out once I was alone in the hallway. Liam, where are you? No answer. If my husband-to-be, the love of my life, was anywhere nearby, then he couldn't hear me. I even called out to him through our mind link, but there was still no response. Maybe something had happened. Frowning, I hurried down the hallway, trying not to think of all the worst-case scenarios in my head. Maybe he took a nap before the ceremony and didn't wake up on time, I told myself. But when I opened the door to the groom's dressing room, I shrieked, You bastards! There, in the dressing room, was my future husband. His tuxedo jacket was laying discarded on the floor, and he was lounging on the sofa, with his hands digging into the hips of another woman who was straddling him. But not just any woman. Vanessa. My best friend and maid of honor. Oh, how foolish I had been. Liam and Vanessa pulled apart at the sound of my voice, their lips making a wet smack as they separated. Liam bolted upright, practically throwing her off of him. His entire face and neck was covered with bright red lipstick. Kayla, I can explain. Explain what, exactly? I shouted, gripping the soft lace of my wedding gown as I stared in shock at the scene. You two were having sex when you were supposed to be getting married to me. Vanessa's eyes were wide as saucers as she smoothed down her skirt. Kayla, Don't you say a word, I hissed, jabbing a finger at her. I don't want to hear your voice again, you two-timing fucking bitch. Vanessa fell silent immediately. Liam picked up his jacket and shrugged it on, holding his hands out in a placating gesture. Kayla, I'm sorry. I got drunk. This was a mistake, that's all. Come on, let's go to the altar. But as Liam took a step toward me, the lipstick smeared across his skin caught the light, and I took an instinctive step back. No, I whispered. No. I'm calling off the wedding. Liam paused, pursing his lips. You can't, you won't, do that. I'm your chosen alpha. You need me to help you protect your pack. To protect you. Maybe once, his honeyed words would have made me swoon. But now, seeing the unapologetic look in his eyes, I realized that everything he had ever said to me had been one big, fat lie. I'll find another way. I turned toward the door, shaking with rage. I didn't even want to look at either of them anymore. Before I could leave, Liam lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. I'm your best option, Kayla, he insisted. And you know it. You're wolfless, and... Enough. I whirled to face him and wrenched my wrist away from his grip, my eyes shooting daggers through his skull. I was supposed to love him, we were supposed to love each other. But he had betrayed me, and no amount of bringing up my missing wolf to belittle me would ever convince me to stay. Enough, I repeated, grabbing the lace of my dress again and ripping at it. It shredded like warm butter under my touch, 3 months of custom designing my dream gown, gone to waste. The top layer of lace fluttered to the floor as I chucked it at Liam, who just stood there like a statue. I won't let a cheating bastard like you control my fate. I'm leaving. And with that, I was gone. Liam's voice followed me down the hallway as I ran, but I didn't stop or even look back at him. I ran and ran, shoving out through the back door of the chapel and onto the sunny street, and I still didn't stop. I couldn't stop, tears streaming down my face and ruining my makeup. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but instead it was one of the worst. My mother was dead. My father was in a coma. I had stupidly chosen Liam to lead Blue Moon together, side by side. He told me he didn't care that I was wolfless, that he loved me anyway. But he never loved me. To him, I was just a means to become an alpha and nothing more. Kayla, where are you? Many guests have already left. The sound of my father's beta's voice slipped into my mind. I gritted my teeth at the sound, just wanting to be alone. But if anyone would help me today, it would be him. Henry, I need you to call off the wedding. Do your best to make sure the guests leave peacefully and preserve my family's reputation. Henry paused for a moment before responding. I see. Are you all right? I'm fine, I lied, perhaps a bit too quickly. I'm just going for a drink. I severed the mind link for now. After walking for a little while, I spotted a restaurant on the corner, the luxurious, members-only bar that I had last attended with Liam just a few weeks ago. I wondered if he was fucking other women then, too. I made my way inside and sat at the bar, ignoring the confused looks from the others. I was just about to order a drink when I suddenly felt a presence beside me. A glass of your best red wine for the lady. Stunned, I looked up. And that was when I saw him. Nicholas Reynolds, soon-to-be alpha of Nightshade Pack. And Liam's older half-brother. I'd never seen him in person before, only in pictures and news articles. He was even more devastatingly handsome in person, with a stern jaw, deep-set amber eyes, and a shock of deep brown hair that was neatly slicked back. He was probably the most handsome man I had ever seen in my entire life, and he was looking right at me. But Liam had always spoken poorly of him, calling him a narcissistic playboy. Their relationship was extremely strained, they didn't even live together, and had never gotten along. Apparently, Nicholas hated Liam just because Liam was the product of his father's second marriage. So, when he sat directly beside me, his broad shoulders nearly knocking me off my bar stool, I was rightfully wary. I gripped my shredded skirt and shot him a cautious glance, caught somewhere between blushing and asking what the hell he wanted from me. But honestly, I wasn't even sure if he recognized me. We'd never met before, and I was sure I didn't exactly look like the pictures of myself right now with my hair hanging around my face and my mascara streaming down my cheeks. Before either of us could say anything, the bartender handed me my drink. I took it and downed half of it without a word. When I was finished, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand, I caught Nicholas's eye. He was smirking at me. Are you a runaway bride? He asked. His voice was deep and gravelly, and something about it made my brain feel like it was being stroked by gentle claws wrapped in silk. Even the other nearby patrons looked up from their drinks, entranced by the future alpha's voice. I swallowed hard and eyed him cautiously. Yes, I replied carefully. But I'm planning on starting a new life. Nicholas chuckled, and reached up. I couldn't find it in me to pull away as he placed his warm hand beneath my chin and lifted my face to meet his gaze. His breath smelled sweetly of mint and his amber eyes flickered with mischief as he leaned forward. How about starting with a kiss? Kayla. Thanks, but no thanks, I said sharply, pulling my face away from Nicholas's hand. Liam had told me that Nicholas was a ruthless, cunning man. If it weren't for his deceitful schemes, Liam should have been the alpha. I wasn't about to kiss a man like that. With that, I stood up from the bar stool. But I forgot I was wearing a pair of ridiculously high heels. As I took a step, my ankle twisted, and I felt myself pitching forward. Suddenly, a warm chest caught me before I hit the ground. His arms were strong and steady, holding me against his body. Let go of me, I growled. You have a funny way of showing gratitude. I didn't ask for your help, I replied, pushing myself upright. But as soon as I stood, I wobbled again. Seems like these heels are giving you trouble. Allow me. Before I could protest, he swept me up into his arms. What do you think you're doing? I exclaimed, my traitorous heart skipping a beat. Inviting you to my suite, he said smoothly. You need to rest, and clearly, those shoes are a hazard. I glared at him, stunned into silence. But as Nicholas held me against his chest, I thought about how Liam had treated me, the betrayal, the lies. His brother certainly didn't seem like the cruel bastard he made him out to be. In fact, he seemed rather sweet. Maybe Liam had been lying about that, too. Fine, I muttered, wrapping my arms around his neck. Nicholas carried me over to the elevator, ignoring the sidelong glances from the others. The elevator went up to the top floor, and when we arrived, he carried me down a quiet hallway to his suite. Inside, the decor was luxurious, plush furniture, amber lighting, and a panoramic view of the city skyline. Nice place, I admitted as he set me down on a velvet sofa. Can I get you anything? Water. More wine for you to chug? I flushed a little. Water would be fine. He disappeared into the kitchen area and returned with a glass of water. Handing it to me, he took a seat next to me. He watched me as I sipped, those amber eyes intense and steady. When I was finished, he was still looking at me. Then, without a word, he reached out and brushed my hair out of my eyes. I felt frozen beneath his tender touch. "What are you doing?" Offering a distraction, he whispered, leaning close enough so that I could smell the mint on his breath again. His voice was low and husky, and I knew what this was, an invitation. I knew it was reckless, but after everything with Liam, part of me craved an escape. "Maybe I don't want a distraction," I whispered, although my voice sounded small and uncertain. He leaned in a little more, close enough so that our lips brushed as he murmured, "Are you sure about that?" I hesitated, my resolve wavering. I knew I shouldn't, but his lips were soft and tender, and I didn't pull away. My lack of response was all the permission he needed. He closed the gap between us, his mouth moving against mine. The kiss was tentative at first, but when I didn't pull away, it deepened. His hands cradled my face, and I found myself responding, the world outside fading away. With a low growl rumbling in his chest, he scooped me up into his arms once more and stood. Our lips never left one another as he carried me to the bedroom, where a large, plush bed sat in the center of the room. I knew this was stupid as he laid me down on the bed and began to help me out of my ruined wedding dress. He was my ex's brother, for God's sake. This was a mistake. But I couldn't resist him. Maybe he was right, maybe I needed a distraction after all. And his lips were so sweet, his arms so warm. If he was the playboy that lying bastard Liam claimed he was, then it was no wonder. He was good at making women swoon. Good at making me swoon, despite myself. Gently, he pulled my dress up and over my head. My cheeks reddened as those amber eyes flicked over me, sweeping across the white lace lingerie that I had picked out especially for my wedding night, and his thumb traced the edge of my bra where my breast spilled out a little over the lace. "This was supposed to be for my husband's eyes only," I whispered, my voice trembling ever so slightly. "But now, it's for you." "His loss," was all Nicholas said with a tiny smirk before unbuttoning his shirt. I couldn't help but smile a little myself as I sat up on my knees to help him. My hands brushed across his smooth, tan skin, pulled taut across bulging chest muscles. His skin felt like silk beneath my touch. I wanted to taste it, feel it on my tongue. But just as I was leaning forward to kiss his body, a sharp buzz rang through my head. I sat back abruptly, pressing my hand to my temple. "Kayla, please come home as soon as possible," my father's Beta's voice echoed in my mind. "What's wrong, Henry? Is everything okay?" But the Beta didn't respond. There was just static, and then the link was cut off. Something was definitely wrong. "I have to go," I said urgently, reaching for my dress. "Don't get distracted," Nicholas said, his eyes narrowing. "Stay." "I can't," I insisted as I pulled my dress back on. "I just received a mind link. My pack needs me." He frowned. "Are you the alpha?" I paused, then decided that there was no point in hiding it now. "I'm Kayla Sterling. My fiancé, Liam, was the one who cheated on me." Nicholas froze at the sound of his brother's name. It seemed he finally realized who I was. I half expected him to be insulted or even angry, but instead, a wicked little smile stretched across his lips. "What's it like kissing your fiancé's older brother?" he purred, taking a step closer to me. He leaned over me, and the smell of wine on his breath was almost enough to make my legs tremble. But now, with my clarity having returned, I knew that I had dodged a bullet. He was still a Reynolds, which meant only one thing: he was a bastard. "You two are equally skilled at kissing," I hissed, baring my teeth at him. He chuckled darkly and shook his head. "Careful, Kayla. You're playing a dangerous game." "I'm not playing any games," I retorted, trying to sidestep him. He moved to block me again. "No." "Then stay. Surely your pack can wait just a little while longer." I glared at him. I'm already disgusted by the idea of submitting to any man from the Reynolds family. This was going to be a mistake, anyway. I went to walk around him again, but I was too slow. In a swift motion, he pinned me against the wall, his hands on either side of my head. "Angering me won't be good for you," he warned. For a moment, we stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. His eyes searched mine, a storm brewing inside of their amber depths. But I knew what this was, and I refused to be intimidated. "Oh, really?" I hissed. "Then let me see what you'll do." With that, I pushed both of my hands into his chest, ignoring the feeling of his smooth skin beneath my palms, and shoved him back. He stumbled away, shocked, and then I was out the door without another word. When the elevator reached the lobby, I stepped out and made a beeline for the exit. Just as I pushed through the revolving doors, I collided with someone. I looked up to see Liam scowling at me. He had changed into the suit I had picked out for him for our honeymoon, an expensive navy blue that only served to remind me of his deceit. "There you are," he said, clearly irritated when he had no right to be. "I've been looking everywhere for you." I rolled my eyes and went to move past him. He wasn't looking for me out of regret or concern, he was just pissed that he wouldn't be getting Blue Moon packed now that I'd called the wedding off. "Leave me alone, Liam." He grabbed my arm tightly and began dragging me toward the car. "Stop being ridiculous. I'll take you home." "Let go of me," I demanded, trying to yank my arm free. "You're causing a scene," he hissed. "People are staring." "Let them stare," I shot back. "I'm not going anywhere with you, you cheating prick." He clenched his jaw and whipped around to face me, his face mere inches from mine. There was no love in those eyes. "You need me, Kayla. Without me, you can't lead the pack. A Luna needs an alpha, and vice versa." I laughed bitterly. "There are plenty of men who would marry me. I don't need you." He narrowed his eyes and yanked me closer, hissing in my ear, "No one is stronger than me, Kayla. And no one dares to oppose me." I froze, looking up at him. His last sentence was a blatant threat, and it sent a chill down my spine. At that moment, the doors of the hotel swung open behind me. I sensed a shift in the atmosphere and turned slightly. Nicholas walked out of the bar, his tall figure exuding authority. His sharp gaze locked onto me, then to the spot where Liam's hand was clenched tightly around my arm. "Kayla." Nicholas stopped a few paces away, glancing suspiciously between me and his brother. "Hi, Nicholas," I greeted him first, even though I knew he probably wouldn't want to talk to me after the way I had just run out on him. But to my surprise, Nicholas raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips as he strode up to us. "Hello, darling sister-in-law. Why are you still wearing a torn wedding dress? Did your new husband go bankrupt already?" Liam clenched his teeth. "This is none of your business." He snarled at his brother. He began yanking on me again, trying to pull me toward his car. "Kayla, this is ridiculous. You're mine, and I'd like you to stop acting like you're not." But before Liam could yank me away, Nicholas stepped forward, his gaze icy. "Watch your words when addressing the future alpha," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. Liam's arrogance visibly weakened at the sound of his brother's stern words. His eyes darted between us, uncertainty flickering across his face. I couldn't help but find it quite amusing, to say the least. In Liam's words, Nicholas was just a worthless nobody. Liam always boasted that he could take Nicholas's place as alpha at any time if he wanted to. And yet here he was, shrinking back from Nicholas's shadow like any other ordinary werewolf. Clearly, Liam was full of it whenever he said those things about his brother, just like how he lied about everything else, apparently. Seizing the moment, I yanked my arm free from Liam's grasp and swiftly moved to Nicholas's side. I shot Liam a warning glare and folded my arms across my chest. "Who says there's no werewolf stronger than you?" I taunted, lifting one eyebrow. "Dare to take another step?" Liam went to move forward but stopped in his tracks when Nicholas shot him a warning sneer. Liam's jaw tightened as he looked back and forth between me and his brother. Anger flashed in his eyes, but he didn't move forward. Finally, after a tense moment, he spun on his heel and stalked off toward his car, grumbling under his breath. "Coward," I murmured. Nicholas glanced down at me as Liam sped away. There was an amused glint in his eye. "Are you using me?" I met his gaze evenly. "I'll repay you for your help." "I'm not like Liam." He tilted his head, a hint of curiosity in his expression. "What can you possibly give me that I don't already have?" "I know one of Liam's schemes. Take me home, and I'll tell you in the car." Before he could even answer, I climbed into Nicholas's nearby sports car, settling into the plush leather seat. He froze, watching me with wide eyes from the sidewalk for a moment before his shoulders slumped a little. He climbed into the driver's seat, not looking at me. Although he clearly didn't want me there, I pretended not to notice and rattled off my address. He obliged and put the car in drive. As we pulled away from the curb, the city lights blurred past. The car was silent for a moment before Nicholas glanced at me. "Are you waiting until you get home to tell me this so-called scheme, or?" he asked. I sighed. "Liam told me that he and his mother planned to bring the heads of the werewolf guild to your alpha succession ceremony," I began, glancing over at him. "They intend to strip you of your right to inherit Nightshade Pact because you have no Luna." Nicholas let out a cold laugh. "I already knew that." I shrugged, looking out the window. "All right, well, then I guess I still owe you one." There was another long silence as he drove. After a few moments, he shot me a sidelong glance. "If you knew who I was, then why did you kiss me?" I shrugged, fiddling with a loose thread on my ruined dress. "Because Liam used me," I admitted, which was only partially true. Nicholas curled his upper lip, flashing his pristine white fangs. "So, it was revenge?" "Maybe," I said. "Is that a problem?" He simply pursed his lips and looked away, clearly not wanting to continue the conversation. Truthfully, revenge wasn't the only reason why I had almost slept with him. But I wasn't about to give a Reynolds son the satisfaction of hearing me admit that. Just then, my head throbbed as a mind link from Liam tried to force its way through. "Kayla, I'm getting sick of this. We need to talk." I grimaced and cut it off before he could finish, refusing to let the prick invade my thoughts. Instead, I tried to reach Beta Henry again, but there was no response. My palms grew sweaty. What was happening back home? As we neared the Pax border, I turned to Nicholas. "You can drop me off here," I said. He slowed the car to a stop. "Are you sure? I can take you further." "No. This is fine," I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. My house wasn't far, anyway. I opened the door, but before stepping out, I looked back at him. "Thank you for the ride." He gave a slight nod, but said nothing. I climbed out and shut the door behind me. Nicholas took off without so much as a glance back at me. Just as I was about to rush home at full speed, a swarm of reporters appeared out of nowhere, cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward. "Miss Sterling. Over here. Can you comment on the cancelled wedding?" I cursed under my breath. Of course, the media would be all over today's incident like a cheap suit. But as the only daughter of the Sterling family, after such a humiliating event, I had to face the reporters with the best attitude possible. Straightening my posture, I plastered a polite smile on my face. "I appreciate your concern, but I have no comments at this time." One reporter pushed forward. "Is it true that Liam Reynolds left you at the altar?" I clenched my jaw. "As I just said, I have no comments." Another shouted, "Just tell us why the wedding was called off." "Personal reasons," I replied tersely, turning away, only to be met with another reporter's microphone. "Miss Sterling, there are rumors that you had a disagreement with your maid of honor. Was she involved with the wedding failure?" The mention of Vanessa, who had once been my best friend, made my stomach twist painfully. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "I will not be discussing personal matters today. Perhaps if I decide to hold a press conference, you can ask your questions then." Just then, a flash went off directly in my face, momentarily blinding me. I stumbled back a little, and before I could regain my footing, the reporters were intensifying their barrage of questions. "Miss Sterling, is there a budding relationship between you and Nicholas Reynolds?" "Of course not," I said. "These questions are." Before I could finish, another reporter cut in. "If there is no relationship, then why did you get out of Liam's alpha brother Nicholas's luxury car? After your wedding failed, what is your relationship with him?" "Nicholas and Kayla." "Nicholas." As I drove, my thoughts drifted back to Kayla. She was easily the hottest woman I had ever met, with beautiful red hair that fell down her back in soft waves, big green eyes, pale skin dotted with freckles, and the sort of slender yet curvy build that was enough to make any man's knees go weak. But she was also the most infuriating woman I had ever met. I wouldn't soon forget the way she had suddenly shoved me away, refusing to finish what we had started in the bedroom, and yet, her fiery spirit, the way she stood up to Liam. And I had seen how she handled the media with such poise as I drove away. It was intriguing, to say the least. Liam, my half-brother, had been constantly praised by the elders and the Werewolf Guild as the most qualified to become alpha out of the two of us. Many believed that after he inherited Kayla's pack, he could take Nightshade from me. Of course, I felt nothing but disdain for this notion. A man who couldn't even pull off a wedding with a woman like that, what kind of career could he possibly build? I scoffed aloud. Fool, I muttered, thinking of Liam. Throwing away a good Luna like Kayla, it was his loss. Suddenly, my mind buzzed, and I felt my mindling spring to life. Nicholas, where are you? Came the voice of my beta, Marcus. On my way back, I replied. We need to talk. The elders are concerned. Let me guess, I said dryly. It's about the ceremony. Exactly. Tomorrow night is the alpha ceremony. If Liam still has Blue Moon Pack support, it's going to be difficult for us. As far as I know, Kayla Sterling won't be helping Liam anymore, I interjected. Are you certain? Quite. Regardless, you still haven't found a suitable Luna, Marcus pressed. Those chairmen won't be easy on you. I sneered. Tell them I'll announce my Luna tomorrow at my alpha ceremony. There was a pause. You will? Yes. Who is she? You'll find out tomorrow. Just make sure everything is in order. Ending the mind link, I felt a smirk stretch across my lips. I was already looking forward to seeing the stunned expressions on their faces tomorrow. Kayla. There's nothing between me and him. I was getting pretty fed up with these reporters, always getting in the way of the important stuff I needed to do. I kept my mouth shut and ignored them, until Henry's wife, Ava, showed up and stepped in to help me out. When I got home, Henry emerged from a side hallway, a grimace etched into his face and a bandage wrapped around his forearm. Henry. I hurried toward him, concerned. What the hell happened? He gave a weary smile. It's nothing. Just a misunderstanding. Don't lie to me, I insisted. Tell me what happened. He sighed and lowered his voice. The Werewolf Guild sent some men. They demanded I hand over the pack's authority since the wedding was called off. When I refused, things got physical. My fist clenched at my sides. Those arrogant fools. Are you all right? I'll be fine, he assured me. But now the elders are. Just then, two elders flanked by a couple of burly guildsmen entered the foyer, likely having heard the whole exchange. I pulled my shoulders back, glaring at them. How dare you? Miss Kayla, Elder Connor, a man with wiry graying hair and a stern look about him, interrupted. Your decision to call off the wedding was utterly foolish. We won't stand for it. You must get back together with Liam, or we will have no choice but to hand the pack over to another, more capable, leader. I lifted my chin. I will not hand over our pack to someone like Liam. Nor will I marry him. He's a cheater and a liar. Elder Sophia, a woman with a neat bun tied at the nape of her neck, shook her head. Be that as it may, your personal feelings are jeopardizing the safety of Blue Moon. Sometimes, a true leader must put aside her own happiness for the sake of tradition? I bit out. No, I won't marry a cheater. A man like Liam would only ruin the pack with his lies. The elders exchanged wary glances, clearly exasperated. The guildsmen beside them, big hulking brutes of men, just stood there and glared at me. I ignored them. Finally, Elder Connor sighed. Your father was. I corrected, narrowing my eyes. My father wasn't dead. He was just sick. My apologies. Your father is a strong and well-respected alpha, Connor continued with a huff. But how he produced an insolent, wolfless child like you is beyond me. His words made it feel like a knife had run through me. I had heard it all before, of course, but it stung just the same every time anyone mentioned it. I was the daughter of a strong alpha wolf, and yet I was wolfless. At 10, I had named my wolf Abby, but when I turned 15 and my peers found their wolves, mine never appeared. 12 years I had waited, and still nothing. And apparently, that made me undeserving of respect. It also meant that I couldn't take over as alpha of Blue Moon myself, which I would have done in a heartbeat instead of all this nonsense. But the damned guild wouldn't allow it. How dare you, I said, but my voice sounded far smaller and weaker than I meant it to. Elder Sophia scoffed and turned to Henry. The girl can hardly speak without stumbling over her words. Perhaps if she had a wolf, she would not be such a weakling. But as she is now, she is not fit to run a household, let alone a pack. I looked away, clenching my jaw. My eyes filled with tears, but I refused to let them fall. Before either of us could say anything, Ava appeared from around the corner. That is uncalled for, Sophia. Kayla has only ever thought of Blue Moon's well-being. If she believes that Liam would not make a suitable alpha, then we should trust her. The elders exchanged glances. Every pack needs an alpha, Elder Sophia insisted. And we will find a suitable one, Ava argued. But in the meantime, it will do you well to speak with respect when referring to the Luna of Blue Moon. And not show up unannounced and threaten us. I shot her a grateful look. With my mother dead and my father in a coma, Henry and Ava were my only true allies. If it weren't for them, I would be utterly alone. Once I thought that I had Liam and Vanessa, but no more. Now, it was just us. The elders murmured among themselves before Elder Connor spoke again. This matter isn't settled. We expect a resolution soon. With that, they turned and left. When the door shut behind them, I let out a sigh of relief. Ava squeezed my shoulder gently. Don't let them get to you. I forced a smile, even though I wanted to cry. It's fine. I'm used to it. Ava and Henry exchanged glances, clearly not believing me. But they didn't press the matter further. With the confrontation over, I made my way up the grand staircase to my room. But no matter how high I held my chin, the elders' words still stung. Was I really the useless person they accused me of being, simply because I had no wolf? And most of all, was my happiness so insignificant that I must marry a cheater because I was wolfless? Shaking my head to dispel the thoughts, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I began drafting emails to my father's old allies, other pack alphas who might lend their support. Message after message, I pleaded for assistance. Anything. A good word for the guild, potential support if the guild tried to take my pack again. But each email quickly came with a refusal to help. Regretfully, we cannot involve ourselves in this matter. Given Liam's connections with the guild, it is too risky. My apologies, but we must decline. I rubbed my temples, frustrated. None were willing to offend Liam, especially since his biological mother was the sister of Darkwood Pax Alpha. And besides, I was just a wolfless little girl who, in their eyes, was unfit to lead. Perhaps many of them would have preferred to see the guild take my pack from me. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, and with the guild's signature impatience, they'd likely return within days to try and take Blue Moon from me again. Unless a miracle in the form of a suitable alpha suddenly appeared out of thin air. But then, a new email notification caught my eye. Opening it, I was surprised to see an email from Nightshade Pack. It was an invitation to Nicholas's alpha ceremony tomorrow. But there was another message at the bottom. The email read, "Please attend, as a repayment for the help I gave you today. Nicholas." Kayla. I wasn't sure if I'd read it correctly. Why would Nicholas want me, the ex of his half-brother, to attend his alpha ceremony, especially after what had happened between us earlier today? Was it to humiliate me? Still, I owed him a favor. So I decided to go and endure it for now, if only so I wouldn't have to owe him anything else. The next afternoon, I dressed up in one of my finest gowns, a deep emerald silk dress that accentuated my own green eyes and auburn hair, a pair of strappy heels and golden jewelry, and attended Nicholas's ceremony with Ava by my side. As we arrived at the grand hall, whispers and pointed glances followed us through the room. But they weren't looking at my dress or the way I had carefully styled my hair and makeup. They were judging me. Whispering about yesterday's debacle. Despite the malicious glares from everyone, I held my head high. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me falter. Not after what had happened yesterday. We navigated through the crowd, ignoring the whispers and looks. But as we crossed the room, I locked eyes with Nicholas. His gaze was intense, unwavering, and for a moment, the noise around us faded. Inexplicably, I felt a surge of desire, as if our encounter in the bedroom had happened just moments ago. I wanted to taste his skin, feel his dark hair run through my fingers, and bite his lip. Damn it, Kayla, get a grip, I thought, quickly looking away before the fantasy could go any further. I'm not a she-wolf in heat. Well, look who decided to show up, a sneering voice called out to me. I turned to see Jessica and Miranda, the twin daughters of a very prominent alpha, smirking at me from a few feet away. The girl who lost both her groom and her wedding, Jessica taunted. And now your pack is going to be taken away. Tough break. I shot back, at least I didn't lose my dignity along the way. Miranda chuckled. Dignity? Is that what you call parading around in a torn wedding dress? I narrowed my eyes. Better a torn dress than marrying a less-than-nothing man. Although I guess you don't care about the character of your man, so long as he has money, right, Jessica? As I spoke, I glanced at Jessica, whose face reddened slightly. Everyone knew that her husband was a good-for-nothing alcoholic and gambler who she only married for his money and status. She didn't exactly appreciate being reminded of it. Miranda rolled her eyes. Well, at least neither of us needs a man to be something. Unlike you, who has no wolf and therefore cannot even inherit her own pack. Pathetic. I opened my mouth to bite out a retort, but shut it again when I felt Ava's hand on my arm. The twins glanced at the exchange, smirking, before they sauntered away. Clearly, they were pleased with the damage they'd already done. Ava leaned in. Don't mind them. They're just jealous. Of what? My scandalous life? I sighed. Perhaps of your resilience, she suggested softly. Before I could respond, an elder's voice boomed over the chatter. And now, the ceremony begins. The crowd hushed, all eyes turning toward the grand stage. Elders and guildsmen in ceremonial robes walked onto the stage, taking seats on either side of a large podium. Ava nudged me gently as the ceremony started. Did you hear? She whispered in my ear. Alpha Nicholas is supposed to introduce his Luna tonight. I raised an eyebrow. Is that so? She wasn't aware of what had happened yesterday, or rather, what hadn't happened. I planned on keeping it that way. She nodded eagerly. Every she-wolf here is dying to know who she is. He's the most eligible alpha around. I glanced around casually. Any guesses? Ava shrugged. Could be anyone. But rumor has it she's someone unexpected. I mused, my gaze drifting back to Nicholas. He stood tall and commanding at the podium, exuding an aura of undeniable authority with his mouth pressed into a thin smile. Less than 24 hours ago, that mouth had been on mine. If he was announcing another woman as his Luna today, I hoped she didn't find out that her husband-to-be was sleeping around so close to their betrothal. Just then, I noticed Liam weaving through the crowd toward me, his expression dark and stormy. Great, I muttered under my breath. Ava followed my gaze. Do you want to step outside? No, I said firmly. I'm not running. Liam approached, flanked by a few of his cronies. Well, if it isn't the runaway bride, he sneered, clearly having given up all pretense of regret by now. What do you want, Liam? I asked, keeping my eyes on the stage ahead where Nicholas and the others were gathering. Liam's companions chuckled. Kayla still has your mark on her neck, one of them jeered. You two can get married any time. I rolled my eyes. How original. Do you boys rehearse these lines? Liam smirked. I heard about your little pack troubles. If you come begging, I might still consider marrying you. Sure, I'll beg. I glanced at him, but only for a second. I'm begging you to leave me alone. Liam's eyes flashed with anger. Once, those soft brown eyes had been a turn-on for me, like pools of honey when they caught the light. Now, the sight of him just made me want to punch him in the face. Suddenly, Liam's gaze zeroed in the mark on my neck. Wait, this isn't from me. What is this? He exclaimed, spotting the faint mark left by Nicholas just yesterday. His raised voice caused some others nearby to turn and look. Did you and Nicholas? I smirked, tilting my head slightly so he could see it better. Jealous. His face contorted with rage. You little. Careful, Liam, I warned, gesturing to the whispering onlookers. You're causing a scene. He stepped closer. You think you can make a fool out of me? I think you did that all by yourself, I retorted. My words must have struck a nerve, because Liam suddenly lunged forward, grabbing my arm and trying to push me into a corner. A ripple of shouts made its way through the crowd as he shoved me, but before he could take it any further, Ava jumped in the way. Liam, stop this. You're out of line, she shouted. Stay out of this, old woman. He barked, shoving her aside so hard that she stumbled and fell to the floor. Ava, I cried, trying to wrench my arm away from Liam so I could help her. Liam, you're such a... Enough. A powerful voice roared through the hall, silencing everyone. Even me. I looked up to see Nicholas standing at the edge of the stage, his eyes blazing with fury. Liam froze, his grip on me loosening as he trembled uncontrollably. I realized with a start that Nicholas had used the alpha voice. Not only Liam but many others in the room wore expressions of fear and submission. Nicholas, Liam's mother, Nicholas's stepmother, stood up and pointed an accusing finger at Nicholas. I don't know what trick you're playing, but the werewolf laws never allow a wolf without a Luna to inherit the alpha position. How you just used that voice is beyond me, but it is against the law. Murmurs rippled through the crowd at that. The president of the Werewolf Guild and several elders stood up, nodding to each other. She is correct, the guild president declared. This ceremony cannot proceed without your Luna present, which means that you are not yet an alpha. Therefore, the use of alpha voice is strictly prohibited. Nicholas raised an eyebrow, descending the steps slowly. Is that so? He asked, his voice lilting. You mock our traditions. An elder challenged, his voice quavering slightly. Nicholas ignored him and simply continued his approach, unbothered. The president and elders instinctively stepped back, as if bracing themselves. But he wasn't heading toward them or anyone else. He stopped directly in front of me. My heart pounded in my chest, uncertainty gripping me like a vice. What was he doing? Are you all right? He asked softly, his amber eyes searching mine. I nodded slowly, although the way my heart was pounding made me feel like I was about to be sick. I'm fine. Nicholas nodded, then crouched and helped me get Ava to her feet. I put my arm around her, exchanging glances. Thankfully, she was unharmed, although as flustered as I felt. He turned his gaze to Liam next, who still stood paralyzed. Touch her again, and you will answer to me. Liam's eyes darted around nervously. You have no right. I have every right, Nicholas interrupted sharply. Liam's mother stepped forward. This is outrageous. You think you can intimidate us? Without a Luna, you are unfit to lead. Nicholas smirked slightly. Funny you should mention that. The room grew eerily quiet. All eyes were on us, and I felt too frozen to even breathe. She's right here, Nicholas said, turning toward me. Gasps and whispers erupted around us as he held out his hand. Kayla, my Luna, come complete the alpha ceremony.